Every time you explain yourself, you lose. Not because your reasons are wrong, because the act of explaining signals that their opinion of you matters more than your own judgment. You've been trained to justify, to defend, to prove, and every time you do, you hand the other person the authority to judge you, an authority you gave them voluntarily. Think about the last time you over-explained a decision to someone. Did it change their mind? Or did it simply give them more material to question you with? Explaining yourself is not communication, it is audition, and you've been auditioning for roles you already deserve. Machiavelli never explained himself. Caesar never explained himself. The men who shaped history moved and let the results speak. Today, you are going to understand why the habit of explaining yourself is costing you power, respect, and peace, and exactly how to stop. This is not about becoming arrogant, it is about becoming sovereign. There is a difference, and by the end of this, you will know exactly where that line is. The man who explains himself constantly is broadcasting one message above all others: I am not sure I am enough. And the world believes whatever you broadcast. What you are about to learn will make some people uncomfortable. Good. Discomfort is where reconstruction begins. Stay with me, because silence, real, deliberate, sovereign silence, is about to become your most powerful tool. Here's the lie you were told. If you just explain yourself clearly enough, people will understand. They will come around. The conflict will dissolve. That is not how it works. People who need you to explain yourself are rarely looking for understanding. They're looking for leverage. Every explanation you give is a negotiation where you started by conceding ground. You know this feeling. You explained your decision thoroughly. They questioned it. You explained more. They questioned more. And suddenly, you're defending yourself against a case you never should have opened. The more you explain, the more you imply that the decision was uncertain. Confident decisions do not require defense. They require execution. There's a specific type of person who demands explanations, not because they care about your reasons, but because demanding explanations is how they establish that they are above you, that you answer to them. Every time you comply, you confirm the hierarchy. Every time you explain, you bow. You may not see it, but they do. This is not about being rude or dismissive. This is about understanding that your decisions belong to you, your direction belongs to you, your time belongs to you, and none of these require a jury. The most powerful men you have ever encountered did not explain themselves to you. They moved, they decided, they acted, and you respected them for it, even if you did not know why. That respect was not accidental. It was the direct result of a man who had decided his judgment was sufficient and communicated that without a single word of justification. This knowledge is for protection, not destruction. You are not learning to dismiss people. You are learning to stop dismissing yourself. Machiavelli understood that the prince who justifies his decisions to every subject has already surrendered the throne. Authority does not explain, it decides. You are the authority of your own life. Act like it. 500 years ago, one man wrote the clearest map of power ever produced, and at its center was a simple observation: the man who needs permission to act will never truly lead. His name was Machiavelli, and what he wrote about silence, action, and the refusal to justify changed everything for the men who were willing to read it honestly. Let me show you who he was and why the lessons he left behind are exactly what you need right now.
Niccolo Machiavelli was a man who understood power not from books, but from rooms. Real rooms, where real decisions were made and real consequences followed. He watched powerful men fall, not because they lacked strength or resources, but because they talked too much, justified too much, showed their hand when silence would have protected everything. Machiavelli himself was a master of the strategic pause, of the answer that was not an answer, of the silence that communicated more than speech ever could. He wrote, "Whoever desires constant success must change his conduct with the times." Today, I want you to hear this differently. Change your silence with the situation. Know when words serve you. Know when they cost you. He was not telling you to be unpredictable for its own sake. He was telling you that the man who adapts, who chooses his words and his silences deliberately, is the one who cannot be outmaneuvered. Machiavelli watched the princes who survived, and the single thread connecting them all was this: they spoke when speech served the goal. They were silent when silence served the goal. Never out of habit, always by design. That is the standard. Not silence always, not explanation never, but deliberate choice every single time. 6 lessons from Machiavelli's observations on the power of what is left unsaid. Each one will change a specific behavior you have been carrying your entire life. Pay attention, not just with your mind, with your memory, because you're going to need these the next time someone demands that you justify yourself. Let's begin.
Lesson 1. Every explanation is a confession of uncertainty, a confession that you need their approval to feel secure in your own decision. Think about the decisions you made that you never felt the need to explain, the ones where your certainty was absolute. Did you explain those, or did you simply move? Now think about the decisions you over-explained, the ones where you listed every reason, anticipated every objection, justified every step. What were you actually communicating? That you weren't sure, that you needed them to be sure for you. The psychology. Certainty is magnetic. Uncertainty is repellent. When you over-explain, you are performing uncertainty, even if you feel certain. And the room reads the performance, not the feeling. Starting today, when you make a decision, state it. Do not preface it, do not cushion it, do not follow it with because. Let it stand on its own weight. Machiavelli observed that the prince who explains his decisions invites debate, and debate is where momentum goes to die. You do not need debate, you need direction. And direction requires the courage to move without consensus. Consensus is not leadership. Consensus is delay. The men who moved history did not wait for everyone to agree. They moved and invited those willing to follow. That is what you are building. Not arrogance, direction. And direction speaks louder than any explanation you could ever give. Lesson 2. Silence is not absence. Silence is presence, the most powerful kind, and you have been leaving it unused your entire life. When someone challenges you and you immediately respond with explanation, you have just told them that their challenge landed, that it mattered enough to make you move. That is a gift you should stop giving. The alternative, receive the challenge, let it land, let the silence breathe. And then, if you choose to respond, respond from strength, not defense. Silence after a challenge says, I heard you, I considered you, and I am not moved. That message, delivered without a single word, is devastating to anyone trying to destabilize you. Starting today, practice the 3-second pause before every response in a high-stakes interaction. 3 seconds of silence before you speak changes everything. The energy, the power, the outcome. In those 3 seconds, you are not being quiet, you are communicating. You are saying, I am not reactive, I am not desperate, I am deliberate, and deliberate men are dangerous men. Lesson 3. You do not owe an explanation to everyone. You owe it to no one who has not earned the right to your reasoning. There is a hierarchy of people whose input genuinely matters to your decisions, your mentors, your closest allies, people who have demonstrated they want the best for you. Outside of that circle, explanation is optional at best, harmful at worst. You know what happens when you explain yourself to the wrong people. They use it, they store it, they reference it later when it serves them, not you. Machiavelli understood that information is currency,
And explaining yourself to those who do not wish you well is spending currency in a store that will never sell you anything useful. Starting today, before you explain yourself to anyone, ask one question. Does this person's understanding of my decision actually affect my ability to execute it? If the answer is no, say nothing. This is not coldness, this is precision. Precision with your words, precision with your reasons, precision with who gets access to your interior world. The man who explains himself to everyone has no interior world left. He has given it all away. And a man with no interior is a man with no reserves, no mystery, no power.
Lesson 4. The defensive man is always losing. Even when he wins the argument, he has already lost the frame. Because the frame was, I must defend myself to you. Defense is reactive. Decision is proactive. Defense says, I'm responding to your reality. Decision says, I'm creating mine. These are not the same posture, and the room knows the difference instantly. You have been in defensive mode for so long it feels like normal. It is not normal. It is a learned response to an environment that trained you to justify your existence. That training ends today. Machiavelli's princes who survived were not the ones who defended best. They were the ones who made the other side defend. The initiative, the agenda, the frame, these were always with the one who decided first. Starting today, when someone puts you on the defensive, pause, recognize the frame, and then refuse it. Not with argument, with redirection, with a new question, with silence, with action. The most powerful response to someone trying to make you defensive is to simply continue what you were doing, undisturbed, unbothered, as if their challenge did not have sufficient weight to alter your trajectory. That response, continuation without acknowledgement, is one of the most psychologically powerful things you can do. It communicates, you are not even in my operating range of concern. Not because you are above caring, but because your direction matters more than their disruption, and you have finally decided that. Lesson 5. Your actions are your only necessary statement. Everything else is noise. Everything else is a preview of something that hasn't happened yet. Words are cheap. Everyone has them. Promises are cheaper. Plans are cheaper still. The only currency that cannot be faked is consistent, accumulated action over time. Machiavelli wrote about the prince who was judged entirely by results, not by his intentions, not by his explanations, not by his vision statements, by what he actually produced. The world operates the same way with you. People remember what you did, not what you said about what you would do, not why you couldn't, what you actually did. Starting today, let your next move be your answer to every question they have about you. Not a speech, not a justification, a move. The man who says little and does much is always underestimated, until suddenly he is not. And by then, it is too late for those who dismissed him. Underestimation is a gift. The man who explains himself constantly is never underestimated. He is known, mapped, anticipated. The man who moves quietly is a constant surprise, and surprises cannot be stopped. Lesson 6. This is not about saying nothing forever. It is about the art of the necessary word. Saying exactly what serves the moment and nothing more. There is a difference between a man who cannot speak and a man who chooses when to speak. One is weak, one is formidable. The goal is formidable. The necessary word is precise. It answers only what needs answering. It reveals only what serves the goal. It leaves the listener wanting more, not satisfied that they have extracted everything from you. Machiavelli himself was famous for responses that ended conversations without resolving them, that left the other party with nothing to push against, a wall that was not a wall, a stillness that was not surrender.
Starting today, before you speak, ask what the single most important thing to say is. Say that. Stop. Let the silence after it do the rest of the work. The silence after a powerful statement is where the statement lives. Most men fill it with nervous continuation, diluting their own point. Let the point stand alone. Give it room to land. This is the complete picture. Decide without confession. Silence as weapon. Reserve your interior. Refuse the defensive frame. Act as your statement. And when you do speak, make every word count. Machiavelli's most enduring princes were not talkers, they were presences. The room felt them before they spoke, and when they did speak, the room remembered. You can build that, not through performance, through practice. Every time you choose silence over explanation, every time you let your actions answer, every time you speak only what is necessary, you are building the man who commands rooms without trying. That man does not explain himself. He does not need to. The room has already decided what he is. And that is what you are becoming, starting now.
The old you is dead. The man who explained every decision to people who had no right to them. The man who defended himself in trials he should have refused to attend. The man who gave away his interior to anyone who asked loudly enough. Gone. You are a weapon, pointed at your own future. A weapon that has finally stopped firing backward, that has stopped wasting its force on people who were never the target. Your future is the target, and nothing between you and it deserves your energy. You belong to no one. Not to their need for your reasons, not to their comfort with your decisions, not to the chorus of voices that trained you to justify your right to exist in the first place. Machiavelli did not write for people who needed permission to be powerful. He wrote for people who were already powerful and needed to stop giving that power away. You were always powerful. You just kept explaining it away. That stops now. Every room you walk into from this day forward, you walk in as the man who does not explain himself, who does not defend himself, who decides, acts, and lets the results speak. That man does not need to win arguments. He does not need to be understood by everyone. He needs only to be clear within himself, and from that clarity, everything else follows. If this reached you, it reached you because some part of you already knew, already felt the cost, already sensed that something in the way you had been operating was costing you more than it was worth. Subscribe if you are the kind of man who acts on what he learns, not just thinks about it, acts. This channel is built for those men. Every week, one more layer, one more truth about power, about psychology, about the invisible rules that separate the men who get what they want from the men who explain why they couldn't. Be here, or don't. The only thing I will never ask you to do is explain your choice. Before you go, leave your answer in the comments. I read every one. Here is today's question. What is the one situation in your life where you have been over-explaining yourself, and what would change if you simply stopped?